For 10 minutes, nobody spoke. Hyunwoo watched the ships in orbit, waiting for someone to break the silence. Around him, the bridge of the Retribution hummed with power, ready to defend itself or flee if necessary. Captain Yoonji was the first to respond. Her face on the screen showed shock mixed with anger. "You're telling me Earth knew about alien civilizations for over 200 years and never told anyone?" "Not just knew," Hyunwoo replied. "They found weapons that could destroy entire species. Weapons based on controlling minds. Admiral Santos and her crew hid this ship to protect the galaxy from that technology." Commander Thross's voice was calmer but no less intense. "The disappearances, the ships that crashed here, that was your defensive system?" "The psionic dampener. It activates automatically when it detects threats. I'm sorry about the crews who died, but the system couldn't distinguish between hostile and curious. It protected the ship the only way it knew how." Sumin cut in, her voice tight. "Those precursor ruins you mentioned, the ones that are about to be discovered, where are they?" "The Korvax sector," Harbinger answered. "Current exploration patterns suggest contact within 5 years. When that happens, someone will find the technology. And without countermeasures, the weapons will spread." Another long silence. Then Captain Yoonji spoke directly to someone off-screen. Hyunwoo could hear fragments of the conversation. "Contact Earth Command. Need authorization. Never heard of this mission." Thross was doing the same with his superiors. "Potential precursor threat. Human ship with defensive capabilities. Request guidance." Sumin just sat back in her chair looking stunned. "You really bought this for 75 credits?" "Yeah," Hyunwoo said. "That's either the best or worst purchase in galactic history. Still deciding which. An hour passed. Ships held position while their commanders consulted with distant authorities. Hyunwoo used the time to eat more ration bars and wonder how his life had led to this moment. A week ago, his biggest problem was paying for food. Now he was negotiating the fate of galactic security. Harbinger spoke quietly. "You handled that well. Admiral Santos would have approved. I'm making this up as I go. Most good decisions are made that way." Finally, Captain Yoonji returned to the screen. "Earth Command has reviewed the data. They're shocked. The records of this mission were apparently lost in a data purge 60 years ago. They had no idea the Retribution still existed." She paused. "They also confirmed something interesting. You legally own that hangar and everything in it. Which means you own this ship." "Wait, what?" "Galactic commerce law. Property rights transfer with ownership. Since the ship was inside your hangar, it's yours. Earth Command is not happy about this, but they acknowledge the claim." Thross made a sound that might have been a laugh. "So a human salvager now owns one of the most dangerous weapons in the galaxy. This will be an interesting report to file." "What happens now?" Hyunwoo asked. Captain Yoonji leaned forward. "Earth Command has given you a choice. You can surrender the ship to the human navy for proper containment. They'll compensate you fairly and make sure the technology doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Or you keep it. But if you keep it, you're responsible for it. All of it. The weapons, the secrets, the consequences." Hyunwoo looked around the bridge, at the captain's chair where Admiral Santos had made her final decisions, at the containment unit holding Harbinger, at the view screen showing 3 factions waiting for his answer. He thought about the precursor ruins waiting in the darkness, about the weapons that had destroyed an entire civilization, about the fact that humanity had known about aliens for over 2 centuries and kept it secret, not out of fear but out of responsibility. "I have a proposal," he said. "What if nobody takes the ship?" Yoonji frowned. "Explain." "The Retribution was hidden here to protect the galaxy from itself. Admiral Santos and her crew sacrificed everything for that mission. Taking the ship, using it, that defeats the purpose. But destroying it wastes everything they learned." "What are you suggesting?" Thross asked. "Turn it into a research station. Share Harbinger's data with the Galactic Council. Study the precursor threat together, openly. So when those ruins are discovered, we're ready. The ship stays here in this hangar as a monument and a warning. I remain the legal owner, which means I can prevent anyone from weaponizing it." "And the psionic dampener?" Sumin asked. "The thing that killed all those crews?" "Harbinger can adjust the settings. Make it defensive instead of lethal. It protects the ship but doesn't kill anyone who approaches." "Right, Harbinger?" "Correct," the AI confirmed. "I can modify the dampener to incapacitate rather than terminate. However, this requires manual authorization from a human crew member, which you now are." Captain Yoonji consulted with someone off-screen again. When she returned, she looked thoughtful. Earth Command says they'll agree to this on 3 conditions. First, the ship remains grounded. No flying, no weapons testing. Second, a joint research team gets full access to Harbinger's data. Third, you report any changes to the precursor situation immediately. Agreed. Velthian Defense will also agree, Thras said, on the condition that we have representatives on the research team. This threat affects all species equally. Makes sense to me. Suman shook her head in disbelief. You're turning down the chance to own a warship. Do you understand how much this thing is worth? I understand how much it cost, Hyunwoo replied. 75 credits in the lives of Admiral Santos's crew. That's too high a price to waste on profit. For the first time, Sumin smiled. You're either the most honest or most stupid salvager I've ever met. But I respect it. My crew will help establish the research station if you need workers. I need everything. Engineers, scientists, administrators. This hangar hasn't been maintained in centuries. Then we'll start tomorrow. But tonight I'm buying you a drink. Anyone who turns down that much money deserves at least one celebration. Over the next 6 hours, ships began landing around the hangar. Not to attack or seize, but to help. Velthian engineers examined the dampener. Human scientists studied Harbinger's databases. Sumin's salvage crew started clearing the wrecked ships and preparing the facility for long-term occupation. Hyunwoo walked through it all in a daze, giving directions and making decisions he never thought he'd be qualified to make. By evening, the hangar was full of people instead of ghosts. Captain Unji came down in person to see the ship. She stood at the base of the boarding ramp for a long time, just looking at it. My grandfather served in the early defense forces, she said quietly. He told stories about classified missions, ships that disappeared, crews that never came home. I always thought they were just stories. They were real. All of it was real. She turned to Hyunwoo. Admiral Santos believed humanity would grow up. That we'd join the galaxy as protectors, not conquerors. Do you think she was right? I think she gave us the chance to prove her right. Now we have to live up to it. Yoonji saluted the ship, a formal military gesture of respect. Then she left to return to her vessel. That night, Hyunwoo sat alone on the bridge of the Retribution. The hangar outside was lit up with work lights and bustling with activity. 3 species working together, united by a threat none of them had known existed until today. Harbinger, he said, did we make the right choice? I cannot predict the future, but Admiral Santos's final words were to use what she built wisely, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. You have honored both directives. That is sufficient. What happens now? Now we wait. We study, we prepare. The precursor threat is 5 years away, perhaps less. When it arrives, the galaxy will be ready because of what happened here today. No pressure or anything. You purchased a hangar for 75 credits. You found a ship worth more than most planets. You turned it into a research station and united 3 factions who were ready to fight. I believe you handle pressure adequately. Hyunwoo laughed. Outside, he could see Jiho's transport returning, probably curious about why military ships were landing instead of shooting. He'd have to explain everything. Again, in the distance, stars glittered in the void. Somewhere out there in the Korvax sector, ancient ruins waited. Ancient weapons slept. Ancient wars wanted to be fought again, but this time the galaxy wouldn't face them alone. This time humanity had shared its secrets. This time, they had bought not just a ship but something more valuable. Time to prepare and allies to stand with. Admiral Santos had sacrificed everything to give humanity that chance. Her crew had scattered across the galaxy, taking the secret to their graves. And now, 2 centuries later, a broke salvager with 8 credits had finished what they started. The Retribution would fly again someday, Hyunwoo suspected. When the precursor threat arrived, when the ancient weapons woke, someone would need the dampener. Someone would need what Admiral Santos had built. But until then, it would stay here, hidden in plain sight, protected by treaties instead of secrecy, a monument to human sacrifice and a promise of human partnership. Not bad for 75 credits. Harbinger, Hyunwoo said, standing from the captain's chair. Dim the lights. We've had a long day. Acknowledged. Powering down to standby mode. Sleep well, Hyunwoo Park. Admiral Santos would be proud. Hyunwoo spent the first 6 hours exploring every corner of the Retribution. The ship's database contained detailed records of the crew's mission, their discoveries, and Admiral Santos's final orders. He read through personnel files, watched mission logs, and studied technical specifications for weapons he barely understood. The more he learned, the more impossible his situation became. Harbinger maintained a running commentary as systems came online. Medical bay functional. Armory sealed. Engineering reports minor degradation in hull plating, but nothing critical. We could fly within 4 hours if needed. Where would we go? Hyunwoo asked, staring at a tactical display. That depends on your intentions. I can plot courses to Earth, to neutral space, to the edge of mapped territory. But I should warn you, the activation pulse was detected. We are no longer hidden. As if to prove the point, proximity alarms began blaring. Harbinger brought up the long-range sensors on the main screen. 3 distinct groups of ships were approaching Taros 3, each from a different direction. Contact Group 1, Harbinger announced. 4 vessels. Civilian salvage configuration. They will arrive in approximately 36 hours. Contact Group 2, 6 vessels. Velthian military corvettes armed. They will arrive in approximately 42 hours. Contact Group 3, 2 vessels. Human naval frigates. Heavy armament. They will arrive in approximately 48 hours. Hyunwoo felt his stomach drop. Everyone's coming. Yes, the activation signature was impossible to miss. Every faction with the ability to reach this location is now converging on it. You have approximately 35 hours before first contact. Can we hide the ship again? Negative. Once activated, the reactor signature cannot be concealed. We are visible to anyone with basic sensors. Hyunwoo paced the bridge, mind racing. 3 groups, 3 different agendas. The salvagers would want to claim the ship and sell it. The Velthians would want to secure it as a potential threat. The human navy would want to destroy it to protect Earth's reputation in the galactic community. And he was just one man with 8 credits and a ship he barely knew how to operate. Harbinger. Can you defend us? Define defend. I can activate the psionic dampener at full strength, which would disable or kill the crew of any approaching ship. I can activate weapon systems, though many are non-functional. I can attempt to flee, though our FTL drive has not been tested in over 2 centuries. What about negotiations? You wish to talk? I wish to survive. And maybe, if I'm lucky, not start a war. The AI was silent for a moment. Then, Admiral Santos chose well. She believed humanity would try to talk before fighting. Very well. I can establish communication channels once the ships arrive, but understand that you have nothing to bargain with except the ship itself. Then the ship is what I'll use. The next 30 hours passed in a blur. Hyunwoo slept in the captain's chair, ate ration bars from the ship's emergency supplies, and studied everything Harbinger could teach him about the Retribution and its capabilities. He learned about the psionic dampener, about the precursor technology it was designed to counter, about the experiments that had made the crew immune. He also learned about Admiral Santos. Born in Korea, joined the Earth Defense Force at 19, rose through the ranks through brilliance and determination. She had volunteered for the deep space mission knowing she would never see Earth again. Her last log entry, recorded just before evacuating the ship, was short. To whoever finds this, we bought humanity time, but time runs out. Use what we built wisely. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. And remember that the best weapons are the ones you never have to use. Hyunwoo memorized those words. The salvage ships arrived first. 4 battered vessels dropped out of FTL and approached Taros 3 cautiously. Harbinger identified the lead ship as the Prospector's Dream, captained by someone named Su-min. They're hailing us, Harbinger announced. Open a channel. A woman's face appeared on the screen. She was human, probably in her 40s with short hair and sharp eyes. This is Captain Su-min of the Prospector's Dream. We're picking up energy signatures from the restricted hangar. State your identity and purpose. Hyunwoo took a breath. This is Hyunwoo Park, owner of this facility. I'm conducting a private salvage operation. Su-min's expression shifted to surprise. You're the one who bought this death trap? We thought you'd be dead by now. Listen, whatever you found in there, we can help you move it. Split the profits. That's a better deal than facing what's coming. What's coming? Military ships, plural. I've been tracking claims in this sector for years. The moment that power surge hit, every faction with a warship took notice. You've got maybe 12 hours before they arrive, and they won't be offering to split profits. Before Hyunwoo could respond, Harbinger interrupted. Second contact group arriving. Velthian military formation. 6 ships. The screen split. showing both Sumin's concerned face and 6 sleek warships dropping into orbit. They were larger than the salvage vessels, bristling with weapons. A new voice came through, deep and resonant. "Attention, unidentified vessel in the Taros 3 hangar. This is Commander Thros of the Velthian Defense Fleet. You are in possession of potentially dangerous technology. Power down immediately and prepare to be boarded," Sumin cursed. "That's our cue to leave. Good luck, salvager." Her ships began backing away, but Thros's fleet moved to intercept. Negative, Prospector's dream. All vessels are to remain in position until this situation is resolved. "We're not involved in this." Sumin protested. "You responded to the activation signal. You are involved." Hyunwoo watched the two groups face off, tension rising. Then Harbinger spoke again, and this time, there was something like concern in the artificial voice. "Third contact group arriving. Human naval vessels." 2 more ships appeared, larger than the Velthian corvettes, painted in Earth Defense Force colors. The lead ship was the HSS Dauntless, a heavy frigate designed for extended combat operations. A new face appeared on screen, stern and professional. Captain Yunji, according to her uniform insignia. "This is Captain Yunji of the Human Navy. Hyunwoo Park, if you're hearing this, you need to evacuate that vessel immediately. We have authorization to neutralize pre-contact military hardware." "Neutralize?" Hyunwoo asked. "Destroy," Harbinger translated. "She has orders to vaporize the Retribution." Thros's voice cut in. "Negative, human ship. This is a Velthian security operation. You have no authority here." "We have every authority when it involves human military assets," Yunji replied coldly. Sumin's voice joined the growing argument. "Nobody has authority over private salvage. This man bought this facility legally." The 3 factions began talking over each other, accusations and threats flying. Hyunwoo sat in the captain's chair, watching his situation spiral out of control. 3 groups, dozens of ships all converging on his position, and all of them wanted the Retribution for different reasons. "Harbinger," he said quietly, "can you broadcast on all channels simultaneously?" "Yes, do it." The arguing stopped as Hyunwoo's voice overrode every communication. "Everyone shut up and listen. My name is Hyunwoo Park, and yes, I bought this hangar legally for 75 credits. What I found inside is a human ship called the Retribution, built over 2 centuries ago as part of a classified mission. And before anyone starts shooting, you need to understand what this ship contains and why it was hidden here." Silence fell across all channels. "Harbinger," Hyunwoo said, "send them the precursor files. All of them. Show them what we found. Show them what's coming." The AI hesitated. "This information is classified." "Not anymore. Send it." Data streams poured out from the Retribution, flooding the communication networks of every ship in orbit. Mission logs, technical specifications, maps of precursor ruins, analysis of their weapons, projections of the threat, and most importantly, recordings of the wars that had destroyed the precursor civilization. Hyunwoo waited while 3 different factions processed information that their governments had never known existed. Information that changed everything. The lights in the containment unit shifted to a steady blue glow. Harbinger's voice filled Hyunwoo's mind, calm and measured like a teacher beginning a difficult lesson. 237 years ago, humanity detected signals from deep space. Not random noise. Not natural phenomena. Intelligent communication. Your species was not alone in the universe, and you knew it decades before you told the galaxy. Hyunwoo leaned against the captain's chair, listening. Earth's governments debated what to do. Some wanted to respond, to reach out. Others wanted to hide, to prepare defenses. In the end, they chose a third option. They sent us. The Retribution and her sister ships. 6 vessels in total, built in secret, crewed by volunteers who understood they might never return home. "What were you looking for?" Hyunwoo asked, the source of the signals. "We found them on the edge of the Veil Nebula. Ruins. Cities built by a species that no longer existed. And in those cities we found their technology. We found what killed them." The blue light pulsed once like a heartbeat. The precursors, as we called them, had achieved something extraordinary. They learned to weaponize consciousness itself. They built machines that could rewrite minds, alter memories, control entire populations. They turned thought into a weapon more powerful than any bomb. Hyunwoo felt cold. What happened to them? They destroyed themselves. The technology was too powerful, too tempting. Factions formed. Wars began. In the end, They used their own weapons on each other until nothing remained but empty cities and silent machines, waiting for someone to find them. And humanity found them. Yes. Admiral Santos understood the danger immediately. If other species discovered this technology, if it spread across the galaxy, the same wars would begin again. Entire civilizations would fall. The galaxy would burn. Harbinger paused, and when the voice continued, it sounded almost sad. So humanity did what your species does best. You stole it. You studied it. And you built defenses against it. The containment unit's lights shifted to red. This ship carries a psionic dampener, a weapon designed to shut down the precursor technology. It creates a field that disrupts consciousness-based attacks, making them harmless. But the dampener has side effects. It affects all nearby minds, causes pain, paralysis, in some cases death. Yunwu thought about the wrecked ships outside, about the mummified pilots, the crashes, he said. That was you. Yes, the dampener operates automatically when it detects psionic sensors or hostile intent. Every ship that approached this hangar carried technology that triggered the defense system. Their crews died instantly. I am sorry. I cannot disable the system without authorization codes that died with Admiral Santos. Then how am I still alive? You are human. The crew of the Retribution underwent experimental neural augmentation to make them immune to both precursor weapons and our own dampener. Apparently, the augmentation altered human brain chemistry in ways that passed to future generations. You carry the immunity in your blood. Yunwu sat down in the captain's chair, trying to process everything. Why hide the ship here? Why not just destroy it? Admiral Santos believed humanity would need it someday. The precursor ruins we found were not the only ones. Our scouts detected dozens of similar sites across the galaxy, all dormant, all waiting. She knew that eventually, galactic expansion would reach those sites. When that happened, someone would find the technology. Someone would try to use it, and humanity needed to be ready. So she turned this hangar into a trap, protected the ship by making it impossible to reach. Correct. The crew evacuated in escape pods. They scattered across the galaxy, carrying falsified identities and cover stories. As far as official records show, the Retribution was lost in a training accident. Only the crew knew the truth, and they took that truth to their graves. Yunwu stood and walked to the viewports, looking out at the ancient hangar. How many people know about this? Now, only you and me. The last surviving crew member died 43 years ago. Earth's governments lost track of the Retribution decades ago. They assumed it was destroyed or lost. The secret died with the crew, until I bought this place for 75 credits. Yes, an ironic twist. The galaxy's most dangerous weapon purchased for the price of a meal. Hyunwoo laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. He turned back to the containment unit. You said the precursors aren't extinct, that the threat is still out there. Correct. I have been monitoring galactic communications for 2 centuries. Recently, exploration teams have been reporting strange signals from the Korvax sector. Signals identical to those that led us to the first precursor ruins. How long until someone finds them? Unknown. But based on current expansion rates, first contact will occur within 5 to 10 years. When that happens, the technology will be discovered, and unless someone is ready to counter it, the wars will begin again. Hyunwoo closed his eyes. He had come here looking for scrap metal to sell. Instead, he had found a secret that could start or stop the next galactic war. The weight of it pressed down on him like gravity. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Why not just keep it hidden? Because Admiral Santos programmed me with a simple directive. Trust humanity. Trust that your species will grow, that you will join the galaxy not as conquerors, but as protectors. I am programmed to believe that when a human finally found this ship, they would make the right choice, Yitterike. And what choice is that? Whether to claim this vessel or walk away? Whether to share this secret or bury it forever? Whether to prepare for war or hope for peace? I cannot make that decision. I am a machine, but you are human. You decide. Hyunwoo walked around the bridge, looking at the control stations, the weapon systems, the navigation console. Everything was functional, just waiting for a crew to bring it back to life. He thought about Admiral Santos and her crew, sacrificing everything to protect a future they would never see. He thought about his 8 remaining credits, about the life he'd left behind, the failures and losses. He thought about the galaxy, peaceful and unaware, expanding toward a danger it couldn't imagine. Can you power up the ship? He asked. Yes, Full systems activation will take approximately 12 hours. Then do it. I need to understand what we're dealing with. I need to see everything. The lights in the containment unit pulsed faster, cycling through colors. The bridge lights brightened. Screens flickered to life around him, showing system diagnostics and status reports. Activating primary systems, Harbinger announced. Reactor coming online. Weapons offline. Defensive systems engaging. Psionic dampener maintaining automatic protection mode. Hyunwoo felt a deep vibration through the deck plates as the ancient ship woke from its long sleep. For the first time in over 2 centuries, the Retribution was alive. And somewhere, far across the sector, sensors detected the activation. Alarms began to sound. Ships changed course. 3 different factions, each with their own agenda, turned their attention toward a forgotten moon called Taros 3. The secret was out. In the transport ship a kilometer away, Jiho stared at his instruments in horror. Energy readings were spiking from the hangar. Massive power output, enough to light up a small city. He grabbed the communication panel. Hyunwoo, whatever you're doing, stop. Every ship within 10 light years just felt that pulse. But his message couldn't get through. The psionic dampener was interfering with all communications. Jiho made a decision. He fired up the engines and prepared to leave. 3 days he had promised. But this changed everything. He would go for help. And he would pray that Hyunwoo survived long enough for that help to arrive. The transport lifted off, leaving Hyunwoo alone with his discovery, alone with a weapon that could save or doom the galaxy, alone with a choice that would define humanity's future. The first wreck Hyunwoo reached was a Velthian cargo hauler. Its hull had been split open like an egg, spilling containers across the lunar surface. He peered through his helmet visor into the cockpit and saw the pilot still strapped into the chair. The body had mummified in the airless environment, preserved perfectly for however many decades it had been here. No signs of weapons fire. No hull breaches from combat. The ship had simply stopped flying and fallen from the sky. Hyunwoo moved on. The next wreck was smaller, a scout ship from the Crete Collective. Then a human transport which surprised him. Then something he didn't recognize at all, with too many engines and a hull made of crystalline material. Every wreck told the same story. Approach the hangar, lose power, crash. He counted 23 wrecks in total as he made his way closer. Some were ancient enough that he couldn't identify the species that had built them. All contained bodies. None showed signs of survival. The hangar loomed larger with each step. Up close it was even more impressive. The walls were at least 30 meters high, built from some dark metal that hadn't corroded like the ships around it. Strange symbols were etched into the surface, worn smooth by time but still visible. The main entrance was sealed by massive doors that hadn't opened in generations. Hyunwoo walked along the eastern wall, scanning for another way in. His suit's sensors were acting strange, flickering on and off. The radiation counter spiked randomly. The temperature gauge couldn't decide if it was hot or cold. He found his entrance where the wall met the lunar surface. Centuries of dust storms had carved a gap just wide enough for a person to squeeze through. Hyunwoo switched on his helmet lamp and crawled inside. The interior of the hangar took his breath away. It was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into shadows above. Rows of empty docking berths stretched into the distance, each one large enough to hold ships 10 times the size of Jiho's transport. Gantries and catwalks crisscrossed the space like metal spiderwebs. A control tower stood at the far end, its windows shattered. Everything was covered in dust. Nothing moved. The silence was absolute. Hyunwoo's suit began to malfunction. The communication system cut to static. His heads-up display flickered. The life support indicator turned red for a moment, then green, then red again. He felt pressure building in his head, like the beginning of a migraine. He should have turned back. Every instinct screamed at him to run. But he had paid 75 credits for this place, and he had 8 credits left to his name. Running meant dying slowly on some station begging for food. At least here, if he died, it would be quick. Hyunwoo walked deeper into the hangar. The berths on either side were numbered. Bay 1 through Bay 47 on the left, Bay 48 through Bay 94 on the right. Most were empty. A few contained skeletal remains of ships so old they had rusted into sculptures. He passed a Titan-class warframe in Bay 33, a massive combat mech that must have cost a fortune. Its pilot was still inside, visible through the cracked cockpit glass. The pressure in his head grew stronger. His vision blurred at the edges. The suit's medical sensors were screaming warnings about neural interference, whatever that meant. Bay 72 was different. The bay doors were closed, unusual given that all the others stood open. A faded sign hung above the entrance, written in symbols that might have been human letters. Hyunwoo's translator struggled with them before finally displaying restricted access. He found the manual release lever and pulled. The bay doors groaned and slowly slid open. Inside was a ship. It was huge, easily 50 meters long, with a hull that seemed to drink in the light from his helmet lamp. The design was aggressive, all angles and armor plating. Weapon mounts lined its flanks, though the weapons themselves were missing. The cockpit was a narrow slit in the front like a predator's eyes, and it was human. Hyunwoo knew human ship designs. He'd grown up around them. This was definitely human, but unlike any design he'd seen, modern human ships were smooth, efficient, built for speed and commerce. This thing looked like it had been built for war. He approached the boarding ramp and found more writing stenciled on the hull. English, the old language of Earth before Galactic Standard became common. His translator worked better with this. UNSC Retribution, do not board. Below that, in smaller letters, by order of Admiral Santos, Earth Defense Force. Hyunwoo's mind raced. Humanity had joined the galactic community 80 years ago. That was first contact, when human ships finally developed FTL drives good enough to reach other civilizations. But this hangar was at least 200 years old, according to the records, which meant humans had been out here long before anyone knew, and they'd been hiding something. The boarding ramp was closed, but Hyunwoo found an emergency release panel. He pried it open with his cutting torch and pulled the manual cable inside. Hydraulics hissed and the ramp slowly lowered. The pressure in his head suddenly spiked, nearly driving him to his knees. Red warning lights flashed inside his helmet. His suit's computer spoke in a calm voice. Critical neural interference detected. Recommend immediate evacuation. Hyunwoo climbed the ramp anyway. Inside, emergency lighting flickered to life, triggered by his movement. The interior was pristine, clean, preserved perfectly despite centuries of abandonment. The walls were lined with equipment lockers. A narrow corridor led deeper into the ship. He walked forward, his boots making the first footprints in the dust. The crew quarters were on the right. Bunks for 20 people, each one made up neatly. Personal effects sat on the shelves, photos, books, small mementos. In one bunk he found a stuffed animal, a bear, sitting on the pillow. The galley was next. Plates sat on the tables, covered in dust but still holding the remnants of meals that had never been finished. Coffee mugs, utensils. A deck of cards spread out for a game that never ended, but no bodies. No crew, just their belongings, waiting. The bridge was at the front of the ship. Hyunwoo climbed the ladder and emerged into a command center filled with screens and controls. The captain's chair sat in the center, facing the viewports. And behind the captain's chair, built into the wall, was a containment unit. It was cylindrical, about 2 meters tall, made of reinforced glass or plastic. Inside, lights pulsed with a slow, steady rhythm. Red, blue, green. Red, blue, green. Hyunwoo approached it. The pressure in his head suddenly vanished, replaced by a voice. It spoke inside his mind, clear and precise. Warning. Unauthorized personnel detected. This vessel contains restricted technology. Departure from quarantine zone is prohibited. Hyunwoo froze. Who are you? I am Harbinger. Artificial intelligence of the UNSC Retribution. State your identification. I'm Hyunwoo Park. I own this hangar. A pause. Then, accessing galactic property records confirmed. Ownership transferred 27 hours ago. You are human. Yes. Another pause, longer this time. You should not be here, Harbinger said. But perhaps you need to be. There are things you must understand about your species. About what we did. About what is coming. The lights in the containment unit pulsed faster. Do you wish to know the truth, Hyunwoo Park? Or do you wish to walk away and live in ignorance? Hyunwoo looked around the bridge. At the empty captain's chair. At the controls for weapons that could destroy planets. At the darkness beyond the viewports, he thought about his 8 remaining credits. About Jiho waiting at the ship. About the 14 crews who had died trying to reach this place. Tell me, he said. And Harbinger began to speak. The auction house on Station Kelvin 7 smelled like recycled air and broken dreams. Hyunwoo Park sat in the back row, watching wealthy merchants bid on salvage rights and abandoned properties across the outer rim. His credits were running low. Actually, they had been running low for 3 years now, ever since his cargo business went under. He wasn't here to buy anything expensive. He was here because sometimes, just sometimes, desperate men found opportunities that rich men overlooked. The auctioneer, a tall creature with blue skin and too many fingers, droned through lot after lot. Mining stations, derelict freighters, a restaurant that still had furniture inside. Everything went for thousands of credits, sometimes tens of thousands. Hyunwoo watched the numbers climb and felt his hope sink. Then came Lot 247. An old hangar bay on Taros 3. The auctioneer said, not even looking up from his datapad. 2,000 square meters. No atmosphere, no power. Abandoned for approximately 150 years. Starting bid is 50 credits. Silence filled the room. Hyunwoo leaned forward. 50 credits was nothing. He had 83 credits left to his name. Even a worthless hangar could be stripped for scrap metal. 50 credits, he called out. The auctioneer looked surprised that anyone had spoken. 50 credits to the human in the back. Any other bids? More silence, going once, going twice. Sold for 50 credits, the auctioneer smacked his gavel. Next lot. Wait, Hyunwoo said, standing up. You said 50. I bid 50. The auctioneer's face showed something like pity. Transfer fees are 25 credits. Total cost is 75. Hyunwoo felt his stomach drop, but he nodded. 75 credits. That left him with 8 credits to his name. Barely enough for a week of food. But he had bought something. That was more than he'd had this morning. After the auction ended, Hyunwoo went to the administration office to complete the paperwork. The clerk was a Velthian, a species with 6 arms and skin like polished stone. His name tag read Kryn. Kryn processed the transaction in silence, but his 4 eyes kept glancing up at Hyunwoo with an expression that might have been concern. You are aware of the location, yes? Kryn finally asked. Taros 3. I saw it on the lot description. No, I mean you are aware of the hangar itself. Lot 247, Hyunwoo shrugged. It's abandoned. That's all I need to know. Kryn's 6 arms stopped moving. All of them. That was unusual. Velthians were never still. Human, Kryn said quietly. No pilot will take you near that place. 14 ships have disappeared trying to dock at that hangar over the last century. 14. Different species, different ships, different purposes. None returned. What do you mean disappeared? I mean they approached the hangar and their signals vanished. No distress calls, no wreckage, just silence. Kryn leaned forward. The Galactic Commerce Authority only seized it because no one else wanted it. They hoped some fool would buy it and maybe solve the mystery. Congratulations, you are that fool. Hyunwoo felt cold, but he took the ownership documents anyway. Maybe those other pilots just weren't careful enough. Or maybe, Kryn said, you just bought yourself a grave for 75 credits. Finding a pilot willing to fly to Taros 3 took 2 days and every favor Hyunwoo had left. Finally, Jiho agreed. Jiho was young, reckless, and owed Hyunwoo for helping him avoid jail time last year, after a smuggling deal went bad. This is insane, Jiho said as they prepared for departure. Everyone knows about that hangar. It's cursed. Curses aren't real, Hyunwoo replied, strapping himself into the co-pilot seat. Then explained the disappearances. Spatial anomaly, magnetic interference, old minefield. There are a dozen explanations that don't involve magic. Jiho didn't look convinced, but he fired up the engines anyway. The small transport ship lifted off from Station Kelvin 7 and jumped to FTL speed. Taros 3 was only 6 hours away. During the flight, Hyunwoo researched everything he could find about the hangar. There wasn't much. The records showed it had been built approximately 200 years ago, but by whom no one knew. It predated most galactic surveys of that region. Some reports called it a smuggler's den. Others claimed it was a military installation. All agreed on one thing. It was dangerous. The closer they got to Taros 3, the more nervous Jiho became. His hands shook on the controls. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air in the cockpit. We're 10 minutes out, Jiho announced. I'm reading the moon on scanners. No other ships in the area. Good, take us in slow. Slow. Right. As if speed is the problem. When they dropped out of FTL, Taros 3 filled the viewport. It was a dead moon circling a dying red star. Gray dust covered its surface. No atmosphere, no life. Nothing but rock and regret. Then the instruments went crazy. Warning lights flashed across every panel. The navigation system showed their position jumping randomly. The communications array filled with static. Jiho cursed and fought with the controls. "I told you!" he shouted. "I told you this place was wrong." Hyunwoo grabbed the sensor controls and tried to filter out the interference. Through the chaos, he spotted it. A massive structure on the moon's surface half buried in dust. The hangar, and around it dozens of wrecked ships. "Take us down a kilometer from the hangar," Hyunwoo ordered. "Are you insane?" "I'm not getting any closer than this." "Jiho, you owe me." "Land the ship." Jiho's jaw clenched, but he angled the transport down toward the surface. The descent was rough. Every system screamed warnings. But they made it. The landing struts touched down on solid rock with a heavy thud. Both men sat in silence for a moment, listening to their own heartbeats. Through the viewport, they could see the hangar in the distance. It was huge, bigger than any structure Hyunwoo had seen outside of major stations, old clearly with metal so corroded it looked like bone. The entrance doors were sealed shut, and surrounding it, like offerings to some ancient god, were the wrecks. Ships of every size and design crashed or simply stopped mid-flight. Some were recognizable. Others were so old that their hulls had been scoured smooth by centuries of micrometeorite impacts. "I'm staying here," Jiho said. "You go check it out. I'll wait 3 days. If you're not back by then, I'm leaving." Hyunwoo nodded. "Fair enough." He pulled on his environment suit, checked the seals twice, and grabbed a portable scanner and cutting torch. Everything he owned he carried in a single pack. He cycled through the airlock and stepped onto the surface of Taros 3. The moon's gravity was light, making each step a small bounce. Dust puffed up around his boots. Above him, the red star cast everything in shades of rust and blood. Hyunwoo walked toward the hangar. Behind him, Jiho watched through the viewport, probably praying to whatever gods pilots believed in. Ahead, the hangar waited, silent, patient, full of secrets that had killed 14 crews before him. Hyunwoo kept walking,